Welcome to another episode of Coastin With Quayz. I am Mark, aka Quayz, and today I will be ranking all of the roller coasters at King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. There are 13 coasters at King's Dominion, but technically the park considers their count to be 14 because Racer 75 has two different tracks. For the purpose of this video, we will keep both Racer 75 credits together for a total count of 13. During my visit to the park, a few coasters were closed, so I was unable to get rides on the Great Pumpkin Coaster, Apple Zapple, and Woodstock Express, but I will still be including them in the ranking. Let's jump right into the ranking. At the bottom of the list at number 13, we have the Great Pumpkin Coaster. This is King's Dominion's Super Kiddie Coaster. I have ridden a similar ride, the Woodstock Express at Dorney Park, and these rides are always super rough. They are meant for small children and do not really have much to them, so this one sits at the bottom of the list. At number 12, we have Apple Zapple. I tried to get on this ride multiple times during my visit and it kept shutting down. It's a wild mouse coaster and those are not my favorite, so that is why it ranks so low. Moving on to number 11, we have King's Dominion's Woodstock Express. As I mentioned, I was not able to ride this during my visit, but I have been on a clone of this ride at Carowinds. These entry-level wooden coasters are actually a lot of fun and are a great introduction to regular roller coasters for kids. Hopefully, I will be able to get a ride on this during my next visit to the park. Falling in at the number 10 spot, we have Anaconda. This is an aerodynamics looping coaster, and it is showing its age. For the most part, it is boring, clunky, uncomfortable, and rough. These coasters were a statement piece when they were first on the scene, but now they sit in the shadows of modern, more dynamic steel coasters. Many parks, like King's Dominion's sister park, Kings Island, are beginning to remove these and replace them with something new. I would love to see King's Dominion do this in the future. Number 9 at King's Dominion is going to be Toonbilly, the SNS Free Spin. Toonbilly was my first SNS Free Spin. I did not really get much spinning on my ride, but I was okay with that. This is a short ride, and it is a smaller version of the SNS Free Spin models. To me, this type of coaster is more about the gimmick of spinning and less about providing a unique experience, and they're not really my thing. With the lines that this ride gets due to the trains taking a while to load, I will not be in a rush to re-ride it, but it was still a fun experience. Reptilian, the steel bobsled coaster, will land at the number 8 spot. I've been on a couple of bobsled coasters, including the now defunct Disaster Transport at Cedar Point and the very unique Flying Turns at Knoebels, the latter of which I would definitely recommend that you try. Reptilian is a fun ride, and these bobsled coasters are few and far between. There is something kind of wild and thrilling about going through the course without being attached to the track. The layout is not anything spectacular, but I would recommend a ride on Reptilian if you visit the park, especially if two trains are running. At number 7, we have the Backlot Stunt coaster. This is a clone of similar coasters located at the other Cedar Fair parks, Kings Island and Canada's Wonderland. Originally themed to the Italian Job film, this launching coaster by Premier Rides is more about the theming and special effects than the ride experience. I think that this is a great ride for someone who is experiencing a launching coaster for the first time. It has an indoor area and some props that it interacts with, but the layout is nothing to write home about. If you are looking for a more thrilling launch coaster, then the next ride on the list is for you. And this brings us to our number 6 coaster, the indoor launch coaster, Flight of Fear. This is another coaster clone. Flight of Fear at King's Dominion is a clone of Flight of Fear at Kings Island. These rides are identical, even down to the theming. The launch is fun, and the completely twisted track leads you into the unknown with each twist, turn, and inversion. It is not the best or most unique launching coaster out there, but it provides a fun, frantic ride. Now we are moving on to King's Dominion's top 5. These next coasters really stand above the rest in my opinion. A lot of the coasters already mentioned are old legacy coasters. From a historical perspective, having those legacy or kiddie coasters is great, but they don't necessarily compel people to travel greater distances to visit the park. At number 5, we have Racer 75. This dueling wooden coaster is not necessarily a world-class ride, and it could also be considered a legacy coaster, but King's Dominion has done a really nice job with its upkeep and the retracking of worn-out or rough areas. If you sit in the back row, there are a couple of moments where you actually get some pretty good ejector airtime. At one point, I was almost standing in my seat. Plus, you have got to love a coaster that races another train. The best wooden coaster in the park, Grizzly, is coming in at number 4. King's Dominion just retracked this coaster and they did a fantastic job. The new track is buttery smooth and the layout of this coaster is great. There are a bunch of great airtime moments and the pacing is really good. I also really love that you can smell the chain lift motor as you ascend the lift hill. Something about that smell is nostalgic for me, and it takes me back to the beginning of my coaster journey with rides like the Phoenix at Knoebels and the Thunderhawk and Hercules at Dorney Park. If you are someone who generally does not like wooden coasters due to their roughness, give Grizzly a try and I think it will change your opinion, or at least show you that wooden coasters can be fantastic if they are taken care of. King's Dominion's top 3 are the real reason why many people probably come to the park. The B&M floorless coaster, Dominator, is next on our list. This is a relocated coaster from Geauga Lake. I was actually able to ride this coaster at Geauga Lake in the early 2000s before it was relocated to King's Dominion. This is a great floorless coaster. It is fast and maintains its speed throughout the entire ride. The layout is really unique in that it combines a number of fun, forceful turns between the inversions. Dominator's pacing is excellent. Typically, B&M floorless coasters tend to slow down a bit after the mid-course break, but Dominator blasts off the brake run and hurls you into the last 2 corkscrews and turns. The first drop, followed by the massive vertical loop, are also excellent. At the top of the loop, you get some decent hang time before descending and entering the next element. This may be my favorite floorless coaster out there, and if you are at King's Dominion, it is a must ride. Number 2 is none other than Twisted Timbers. Rocky Mountain construction strikes again. I feel like RMC can do no wrong. Twisted Timbers is a complete remake and overhaul of the old Hurler wooden roller coaster. RMC and King's Dominion did some amazing things with the Hurler's old footprint and structure. Major standout moments of this ride include the barrel down first drop and the 3 big airtime hills after the drop. The momentum of this ride starts off on the inverting drop and never lets up. The airtime throughout is all ejector, and even though it is very intense, the ride is incredibly smooth due to the use of RMC's iBox track. Each inversion is fun and smooth, and Twisted Timbers also packs in some surprising moments of lateral forces. My only negative to this ride is that some of the smaller moments don't seem quite as impactful. But let's be honest, that complaint is truly just me being nitpicky. This coaster is a masterpiece, and if you go straight to Twisted Timbers when you enter the park, you shouldn't have to wait too long in the line since this is in the back of the park. That is great news because you are going to want to re-ride this excellent coaster again and again. It is now the moment you've all been waiting for. There can only be one number 1 coaster at King's Dominion, and that coaster is none other than Intimidator 305, an Intamin Giga Coaster. Before I talk about how much of an absolute beast this ride is, I have to admit that I could totally understand if you think that Twisted Timbers is the best coaster in the park. For the general public, I-305 can be a little too intimidating. See what I did there? Okay, moving on. For a coaster enthusiast who seeks out the biggest, baddest, fastest, and most intense coasters out there, I-305 is a dream. It is a truly relentless ride. The 300-foot Giga drop is excellent, and the turn that comes immediately after it is bonkers. Every time that I rode I-305, I grayed out like crazy around this turn. Since the ride stays super low to the ground for most of its duration, all of the transitions are super snappy and intense, while also being incredibly exhilarating and fun. I rode I-305 4 times during my visit, and I have not been able to get the ride out of my mind since then. This ride is so good that it made it to the number 2 spot of my all-time coaster list, falling only behind Fiore 325, a B&M Giga coaster located at Carowinds. If you visit King's Dominion, you have to ride I-305 for yourself and determine if it is the best in the park, but for me, it is no question. Well, that does it for my King's Dominion coaster ranking. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe to stay up to date with everything here at Coastin With Quayz. If you disagree with my ranking, let me know in the comments what you think about the lineup of coasters at King's Dominion, and until next time, keep on coasting.